Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Saturday, March the 9th, presented by Boston Hemp Inc., Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and look who is back. Is Zach Urban missing in action? Had to put an APB out the last few Saturdays, but he is back with us today. Zach, first of all, how have things been? And good to have you back.
No, things have been good. Just was tied up the last couple of Saturdays, so I'm glad to be back on the show today.
No doubt. Crazy, busy Friday, trade deadline day, of course, coming and going. Really, there's not really much to say, quite honestly, than what we already talked about yesterday. There weren't really any big deals that trickled in after the 3 p.m. deadline, so there's not really much to add. We did talk about Tyler Toffoli yesterday. We talked about Jake Guentzel and those two major trades yesterday. We talked about Hurdle right at the tail end of the show as well, and everybody upset about what Vegas is doing and their tactics, and it's not right, and it's unfair. It's probably true, but it's available at their disposal for them to use these tactics. So at the end of the day, again, you got to be upset with the league for allowing that to happen. But yeah, when you look at the trade deadline, just briefly, winners and losers, certainly Vegas, when you bring in everybody they brought in, Noah Hannafin, Anthony Mantha, and then if that's not enough, you bring in Tomas Hertl from the San Jose Sharks, who is older and does have injury issues, but man, if he's healthy and good in the playoffs, look out. So they obviously did a lot to improve their team. Winnipeg getting Tyler Toffoli, I think, was a tremendous move. You see what Florida's done. They've improved, obviously, at the deadline. And Carolina needed a little more offense, especially in their top six, a little more of that high-end skill. That was an issue. Offense got shut down by Florida in the sweep in the Eastern Conference Final last year, and they addressed that by bringing in Jake Guentzel. And then you look at teams that maybe didn't. I got to even put Vancouver a little bit as a bit of a loser just because they didn't add too much, but they're still a pretty good team as it is. I would have liked to have seen them maybe make another addition up front because I know they were in on Guentzel, but they didn't. The New York Rangers, I didn't love their trade deadline. When you look at teams in their own division like Carolina getting better, and then other teams in the East getting better, and the Rangers kind of stood pat, minor additions for them, not really good. I'm going to say Toronto loser too, but when I look at Toronto, they're hamstrung big time against the cap. They have very little draft capital. They didn't want to budge from anything. And when you look at also the fact that, the Leaf fans are just going nuts today, complaining and bitching that they didn't make any big splash here yesterday. Well, you made splashes last year. Where did it get you? Nowhere. Where did it get you 2 years ago? Where did it get you 3 years ago? When they did make moves at the trade deadline, multiple moves to try to improve the team, they still got bounced early in the playoffs, and they still have just one playoff win in a series in the last 20 years. So, take your chances that maybe you can stand pat, be a little more conservative, trust in some of the guys you brought up here, and see what happens. Because when you look at the Leafs, it's not like all making moves at the deadline brought them success the last few years. So, like I said, I don't think they had a good deadline. I agree with that. But let's calm down with the they're going to do absolutely nothing because of this in the playoffs. Well, they didn't do much in the playoffs with making moves at the deadline the last few years. So keep that in mind. Alex, is there anything you wanted to mention or talk about briefly in the trade deadline recap?
Yeah, I think my big winner is Florida. And I love the little pieces that they added. Even late, Magnus Hellberg coming over from Pittsburgh is huge. We know Bobrovsky's played well. We know that Anthony Stolarz has had a good season, but he doesn't have any playoff experience. A Hellberg, who doesn't have much playoff experience either, does give you a formidable backup option, a third option if you need it in the playoffs. They pretty much shored up every little thing that they needed to. You could kind of say the same thing about Carolina as well. And Carolina now, with this wealth of goaltending, they sent Antti Raanta to the Chicago Wolves again, which that's big for them in their race in the AHL. But now you have a complement, like I said, of offense. We know the quality defense, and now you have these goaltenders to cycle from. So teams that have filled their cupboard. Colorado's another one as well, although I thought Colorado maybe could have gone out and grabbed another third goalie potentially. But everything else that they have, these are the three teams in Vegas as well, because they were already pretty much stacked. Those four teams are the ones that really have a full cupboard where no matter what happens during the playoff run, they have something to fill in the hole. They have depth at forward, depth at defense, and even depth at goaltending. That's massive, especially when we talk about how compressed the end of the year is. We're going to be talking about, of course, just the usual grind of the playoffs. These are teams that really, did a good job. So I give those teams wins. And the biggest loss is the New Jersey Devils. All the things you did yesterday, you should have done earlier. You should have been the team starting the clock and kicking the first domino on trades and firings. And you still may have had a chance to be relevant and be a wild card team right now at this point, not a team that's looking to do a quick rebuild. And then you go and you address your goaltending issue by getting Jake Allen and Kaapo Kähkönen after we've watched 40, 50 games of two of them be two of the worst goaltenders in the league. It is absolutely asinine. And I know you give Tom Fitzgerald a 5-year contract extension. If I'm the higher ups there, I say this summer starts a 3-year project. He's got 3 years to get us to at least an Eastern Conference final or Stanley Cup final winning the East. Otherwise, he's out of here, because what you're seeing right now is just kind of a mess. And it seems like he fell into the fan pressure of making moves rather than having things planned out for himself on his own. He fell into the fan pressure of firing Lindy Ruff when he should have done that a month ago. That's not a GM you want. You want a receptive GM and you want an open-minded GM, but you don't want anybody where it seems like all his moves are pressed by the fans and the media. And it's after the fact. He's doing things at the 13th hour that he should have been doing at the 10th hour earlier. So I give a big loss to New Jersey on that.
Yeah, I didn't mention them, but I can't argue with that. How do you look at that goaltend? They better hope Nico Daws. They're not making the playoffs probably anyway, but they better hope Nico Daws doesn't get hurt. He's the one, and even he's not great, but he's at least decent. He can at least play a decent game like he did against St. Louis the other night, getting Travis Green his first win as a head coach. These other guys can't. Yeah.
Their goaltending room is Nico Daws, Jake Allen, Kaapo Kähkönen, and Akira Schmid. Yeah. You don't have a quality goaltender amongst the four of them.
No, you don't. You've got a decent one in Daws who has potential maybe to get better in the future. Maybe. That's about it. That's about it. Zach, thoughts on the deadline, the moves you liked, the moves you didn't like? What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a good deadline as a fan for sure. It was nice to see some of those teams build for their championship runs here, their Stanley Cup runs. Obviously, definitely on the side of Vegas being a little cheaty, so I don't really like how they can do that or how they've done that twice in a row. Kind of ticks me off. But I've also enjoyed seeing the Flames sell. Honestly, I think it's good to see that they're with the picks they're getting back, and hopefully some of these players can pan out for them, and hopefully the future's bright for them, and kind of exciting in that aspect as a Flames fan.
No doubt. All right, we're going to skip the Friday recap because it's about 15, 20 minutes for the first trio of games begin, all at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to get right into them now, and we will begin with the Edmonton Oilers taking on the Buffalo Sabres. We've got Edmonton minus 210, road favorites, 6.5 the total. The only thing I'll say, actually, I do want to say one thing about yesterday. What a disgrace, the Detroit Red Wings last night. What an awful performance. What an absolutely abysmal performance by them after getting
shellacked. That was so disappointing.
Terrible.
So disappointing.
Yeah, absolute awful.
That's what we get for trusting the Detroit Red Wings, though.
I was so disappointed.
They were Detroit last night.
Mm-hmm. Detroit, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they absolutely were Detroit last night in that game, no question. And we did get a draw out of Minnesota, Colorado, which was good. And Dallas finally put the boot to somebody, and a nice win for Winnipeg. So there you go. This game, Edmonton off a loss. I think it's a good Edmonton spot. I don't love the prices. And Buffalo's been decent at times in these Saturday spots and these afternoon games at home, no question. So it's not a sure thing for me, but I did grab a little Edmonton team total over 3.5. When I think Edmonton's going to win the game, that's the bet you make, especially when they're laying this kind of price. You don't do anything with the money line. You just look over 3.5 Oilers. I think I might sprinkle on a first period over, full game over split as well. But nothing really significant here. Just a trio of smaller bets for me to get the day started here. Edmonton off a loss to Columbus. You don't want to drop 2 games to mediocre competition now going into this game. So for me, I'm going to go Edmonton team total, first period over, which I really like. Maybe a little smaller full game over. Alex, what do you think here, Oilers and Sabres?
Yeah, first period over. That was one of the first two bets I made this way early this morning. I just see pace with Edmonton and Buffalo, and of course I will have some small sprinkles. I got to put them in. In fact, I'll have that loaded up. But I'm going to go with Zach Hyman and Leon Draisaitl both for first goals for Edmonton. We've been talking about the streak. It's one or the other that's been scoring the first goal for the Oilers. But I will have a little bit higher on Leon Draisaitl first goal at 10-1. So first goal of the game for Leon Draisaitl, first Edmonton goal splits for Draisaitl and Hyman to go with that first period over. So if I get a Draisaitl goal first and a Hyman goal second, 2-0 in the first, it'll be absolute perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like those. I'm going to sprinkle on those because when you're talking 7 straight games where the first goal scorer for the Edmonton Oilers has been either Leon Draisaitl or Zach Hyman, and you're going to get plus 500 to plus 550 for them to score the first goal for the Oilers. It's definitely something that's well worth taking, not worth passing up. That's for sure. Zach, what do you think here, Oilers Sabres?
Leon's 700th game today, I think. Isn't that correct? I saw something about that.
Yeah,
exactly.
That might have a little something in there as well. So
yeah.
I'm thinking Oilers in regulation in this one definitely need to bounce back for them. It's coming down to this last quarter of the season. It's really most important time of the year for all these teams contending. So I think they're going to put in a good game on the road here. And
Tage is playing. Yeah, Tage was out. Now Tage is back in. I don't think they know what they're doing here, Buffalo, but he was out. Now he's in, Tage Thompson.
I don't think it's going to matter. I don't know. I'm hoping that Edmonton comes out strong today.
Yeah, Buffalo's petering out a little bit again. They lost to Toronto. They lost to Nashville last 2 games. So when I look at it here, I think they're petering out again. We'll see if they can. I know they had a nice little run there. Vegas was a nice win. They had a couple of nice wins here, but like I say, we'll see how they fare in this early start game. But Edmonton knows they didn't play our best against Columbus. Plus, they had Cal Pickard in net. Let's not forget that. You got to deal with Skinner in net here, who continues to play very well here for the Edmonton Oilers right now. So is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, but he still gives up a few short side goals. The last couple of games, I've seen him give up through 5-hole against Winnipeg. He gave up a short side goal, and it's a spot where I think definitely, he's not nearly as he's been good lately, but I'm starting to see some holes again starting to show up. And Edmonton's the kind of team that can exploit those, no doubt. All right, next up, we've got Carolina and New Jersey. This is another 12:30 Eastern game. We've got Kakalaki minus 140 to minus 150 is what it's up to now here as road favorites. The total in this game, 6.5 shaded to the under. This is going to be more of, if I bet something here, it's going to be a live bet. Pre-game, I don't want anything. There's been great energy in the Devils with the 2 games after the coaching change. Even the loss to Florida, they played competitive. It was a decent effort. And then, of course, they beat St. Louis. But now you wonder, Toffoli's been traded, kind of the signal that you're kind of waving the white flag on this particular NHL season. What are you going to get now from the Devils? The first game post-trade deadline. The effort's been good in the 2 games under Green. They're 1-1. But the one loss was to Florida, a pretty damn good hockey team. You're facing another pretty damn good hockey team here. So I don't want to bet against New Jersey at this price, but Carolina is the better of these 2 teams. It wouldn't surprise me if they win the game. I just don't want to lay minus 150. So this is a pass for me. I don't pass a lot, but I'm passing here. A lot of variables here that I want to watch the game play out before I do anything. Maybe I move live on something, but that'll be it for me here. What do you think, Alex? Carolina, New Jersey.
Yeah, this would be a live game for me if it was at night. We're going to be on the air, so maybe try to grab something. And obviously, we talked about Carolina being one of those teams we got to be cautious with. A lot of moving parts. Now, this is a great price considering the moves New Jersey has made, especially in goal. So, like I said, I'll have the game on. If we can grab maybe a live full game over, maybe expect a slower pace, sloppier play early from Carolina as guys trying to figure things out. And we can maybe try to get a 5.5 at plus money or even a 4.5. And then hope for some goals late. So it's a wait and see game. So pass for now, and we'll mention something if we're on the air and see something come up.
Yeah, definitely. Teuvo Teravainen and Stefan Nason. If I'll throw out a couple of props there, those would be the 2. Teravainen's been great, and they're going to have a tough decision to make because that's probably going to be Jake Gensel's spot when he's ready to go for Carolina. But Teravainen's now on a 5-game point streak, 2 goals in the last 3 games as well. And like I say, I also think Steph Nason's on the second line here today as well for the Hurricanes with Drury and Natchez. And he's always got value, especially if he's going to play on the top 6 forward group. And don't forget, he also gets power play minutes as well for this team. What do you think here in this one, Zach? Carolina, New Jersey.
I'm sticking with the in regulation trend and going with Carolina in regulation in this one. I'm actually going to parlay that first 2 games of the day, Edmonton and Carolina, just for a little action early, a little bit on there. But yeah, I think Carolina is the better team, and with New Jersey and all the moves going in the deadline, I think the excitement's kind of simmered down now, and I think Carolina's going to come out good.
There you go. Nothing like the living dangerously early start, early game chalk parlay.
Yeah, see
right
if we can
there.
get off to a good start, have
Right
some more
there.
fun in the afternoon.
Look, there's some randomness in these really early games. Like I'm
Yeah,
talking 12:30 Eastern. So everything for me is low units here early. Everything. Actually, that's not true. The next game I like a lot more than the first 2 as far as opportunity. A little bit more on this next game, which I do like. This next game, and it's the third and final game that is just about to start at 12:30 Eastern. Kind of bizarre. We've got all these 12:30 Eastern games today at the same time. But we do have that, and it's Nashville and Columbus. Nashville minus 160 road favorites here in this game, and the total 6.5 across the board. It looks like as far as by the way, Kochetkov, Dawes for the goaltending matchup in the game between the Hurricanes and the Devils. This game here, Nashville, Columbus, we've got Kevin Lankinen and we've got Danil Tarasov confirmed. So they're giving UC Saros a rest. You know, Tarasov's actually been a little bit better lately. I have my doubts if it's going to continue, but he did play well in the 4-2 win against Edmonton. But this Nashville team is going to challenge him. 9-1 in their last 10 games. They had their 8-game winning streak snapped by Montreal, bounced back, beat Buffalo. In all 9 wins in their last 10 games, Nashville has scored at least 4 goals. We've been on a bunch of the Nashville team totals. I'm back to the well with it again today. Nashville team total over 3.5, around minus 106, minus 110. Very good price. I'm also on bifecta here. I think I might actually go trifecta here because I could see Columbus has been scoring goals early at home, and it is Lankinen today. So I am going to go over trifecta here. 1.5, 6.5, and both teams to score in the first period. And by the way, the last 2 games in Columbus both went over the total as well between these 2 teams. And like I've continued to say with Nashville right now, during this win streak, the offense has been humming. And it's also why their games have started to trend a little bit more over. You look at Columbus, they went 6-3. Be careful with the money line here with Nashville. Like I've been riding the team total. We've been cashing these bets multiple times. I've been winning with this team total on Nashville. But if you like Nashville, take the team total. Stay away from the money line because Columbus has been very feisty at home lately. If you look at Columbus in their last 4 home games, they've won 3 of them. And you know the teams they beat? Rangers, Vegas Golden Knights, Edmonton Oilers, playoff teams, all 3 of them. Columbus has won. Those were their last 3 home wins, all against playoff competition. So Columbus has raised their game a little bit. We do have to give them a little bit of credit, especially what they've done on home ice. You beat the Rangers, the Golden Knights, and the Oilers in 3 of your last 4 home games. You're doing something right. But I still think Nashville can score 4 on them. Tarasov, I think, regression. He's not going to keep doing this. Remember, we can't forget what the goalie he was early in the season, not great. And Nashville's offense is something. You can't stop Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist right now. Any props involving those 3 guys at the moment are worth a look because they are absolutely taking this Nashville team on their back right now. That top line has been outstanding for the Predators heading into this game during this streak where they put 9 of 10 in the win column. What do you think here in this one, Alex? Nashville, Columbus.
You know, I get what you're saying. In Columbus, they have been playing well. They've been getting wins. But you look at those teams, New York and Edmonton specifically, those are teams that they've dominated at home over the years. Nashville is a team that's been, getting the better of the Blue Jackets for the most part. Even though you look at recent form, Columbus won 3 of the last 5. And go back a little further, Nashville's been a little bit more victorious. This is a spot I think they're rolling right now. I took a shot with them in regulation, minus $1.15, as well as that team total over 3.5, minus $1.10. I just felt a little more confident kind of backing up and adding that regulation. Like I said, Nashville, if you feel like they're going to win and you're getting a good price with over 3.5, that should really be the target you have with the Predators because that's when they normally win. If they're getting 4 goals, there's a great chance that they end up getting the victory. I just feel like because this early start, we talked about how teams sometimes weird with early starts. Columbus they're somewhat used to this. They've had a couple of early games of the year. I think Nashville's a bit more well versed in it, and that's good for them because Nashville being a central team where they're located, you look at the playoffs, they're going to be the team that probably gets saddled with a game 3 or game 4 Saturday, Sunday afternoon start once the playoffs roll around if they make it. So it's something that you kind of have to get used to if you're one of these central teams. Location makes a difference, getting used to some of these day games in the second half. That being said, we could possibly see a slower start, and that's why I'm staying off of all the totals. I like Nashville here in regulation and just team total over 3.5.
All right, Nashville in regulation for Alex, and also over 3.5 Predators team total. What do you think here, Zach? Nashville, Columbus.
Yeah, I'm not really sure on this one. Like you said earlier, Columbus has kind of picked up their game against some of those teams that have been kind of buzzing and playing well. So this might be something that I wait for a little live to see if the game opens up or if it's off to a slow start, but probably just going to hit the brakes on it early.
All right, nothing wrong with that. And like I said, anyone on the top line for Nashville is worth a look. Maybe Evangelista as well for them. And then for the Jackets, Danforth starting to percolate. He's getting more minutes. Of course, they trade away Jack Roslovic. Here's a bargain bin without any of the Russians, of course, Shinikov, Voronkov, Marchenko. The Alex Nylander, man, too. This guy, all of a sudden, he gets traded to Columbus. He's lighting it up. I mean, it's ridiculous. 5 goals in 5 games for William Nylander's little brother, Alexander, who's done great. But Trey Fix-Wolansky is on the top line with Jenner and Gaudreau here in this game. So Trey Fix-Wolansky, if you want to take a shot, there you go. He's on the top line for this game for the Columbus Blue Jackets this afternoon. All right, next up here, this is the second game that is on ABC this afternoon. Pittsburgh taking on Boston, 3 p.m. Eastern. We've got Boston minus 190, home favorites, 6 the total, shaded to the under in this game. We're not touching Pittsburgh. It's just a question of, is this a spot you want to jump in on Boston? Here's my concern, though. Okay, I'm going to actually end up on Boston in regulation, but I'm keeping this small because I remember I've seen enough Boston here on these Saturday afternoon games where they've shit the bed. They've laid an egg. They're coming off a very satisfying win against Toronto on a night where they honored the 2011 Stanley Cup champion Bruins team. Gosh, it kind of smells this spot for Boston, but I don't know how you can get there with Pittsburgh right now. We know obviously things have come apart for them. They played awful hockey. They get blanked at home by Washington. Crosby's miserable, as you would expect, knowing that this team's rebuilding and he's around still as part of it. So it's with some trepidation, but I am on Boston in regulation here. I am concerned, though. They have shit the bed in these spots. I remember that Washington home game on a Saturday afternoon. They couldn't have played worse. So I'm keeping this small. There's better spots than this one to fade Pittsburgh. We'll be in on the Pittsburgh fade here today, but we're keeping it small here in this one. What do you think here, Alex? Penguins, Bruins.
Yeah, I like the first period over here. I grabbed that last night, actually minus $1.20 over 1.5, and I'm not really torn or not really looking at a side here, but kind of dabbling with the draw. Even though the Penguins, we know that they sold, they're not going to be trying to make any for push or contention. But Boston, like I said, letting teams hang around, kind of sometimes playing down, especially in some of these earlier day games. We've also seen 2 of the last 3 and 3 of the last 7 Saturday games for the Bruins go past regulation. So I'm definitely going to be taking a little sprinkle with the draw here, but I like that first period over more. I think we get goals early, ABC start. We've seen kind of a little bit more of a faster pace, especially with the Penguins playing some of those earlier day games.
Yeah, no doubt. It should be Jari and Allmark, and Allmark is still a Bruin. There was a ton of chatter about where he would go. The Kings were very much involved in a potential deal to bring Linus Allmark to LA, but it fell through at the last minute. So he remains a Boston Bruin. So they will have that Jeremy Swayman, Linus Allmark combination intact for the stretch run.
Something to note, we probably won't, I highly doubt we'll see the rematch or the meeting happen in the final. But something to note next year, the LA Kings, whenever they play the Boston Bruins or wherever Linus Allmark ends up being next year, could be a bit interesting because it was kind of revealed that Linus Allmark had a chance to go to LA and he said no. So it'll be interesting to see how the Kings kind of feel about that. Next time Allmark gets a start at Crypto.com Arena.
Yeah. Right now, I think their starting goalie in the playoffs, for even though he was the Vezina winner last year, this year the better goalie's been Jeremy Swayman. So you've got to believe as of right now, Jeremy Swayman's going to be the guy game one in the first round for the Boston Bruins this year. What do you think here, Zach? Pittsburgh, Boston.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna jump on the over game total over here, over 6, and probably even sprinkle a little on first period over as well. Other than that, that's about it on this one. Maybe some player props, but I haven't really watched these two teams play a lot recently, to be honest, so I don't have much to say.
Yeah, you know what? Bunting with Crosby and Raquel, that looks like that's where he's going to be on the top line. Bunting, maybe a sprinkle on him to make an impact first game. I don't hate it. Bemstrom's up to the second line. There is actually some value on Pittsburgh. It's a question of whether they can actually produce and convert with these line changes and these guys that are up the lineup that are going to get an opportunity. For Boston, you know, when you look at lately for them, Morgan Geekie has to be on your prop card. He's been amazing. He's heating up again. Mazaka's been good since he's been back from injury. So those would be my top two Boston player prop looks, would be Zaka and Geekie going into this afternoon's game with the Penguins and the Bruins, both of them on a little bit of a heater right now for sure. Okay, this next game is the last game of the afternoon slate, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Pacific, the start for this one. Calgary Flames taking on the Florida Panthers. Got Florida minus 220 home favorites. Total here sitting at, it looks like 6-6 actually, a flat 6 here in this game with the Flames and the Panthers. Panthers off a rare loss against the Philadelphia Flyers, who, you know, do they have Florida's number a bit? Because the Panthers in the last month have lost 2 home games to Philadelphia, and they haven't lost a whole lot other than those 2 games. But bounce back spot for Florida. Calgary did beat Tampa, and Calgary continues to defy the odds here, where Tanev's traded away, Hannafin's traded away, and yet they're still very much alive in the playoff mix. They played well against Florida. They beat Florida in Calgary earlier this year. But will it continue here? I'm not so sure. I just don't want to. There is some injuries, too, for them, as far as Pospisil still serving his suspension. Connor Zari's on IR. Yet they've still continued to just keep on going with pretty solid effort. Tampa Bay, though, let's be real. Tampa Bay was horrendous the other night when Calgary beat them. So that was definitely not all. Calgary good the other night against Tampa Bay. That was definitely, a lot of it was the Lightning were horrendous. They've been a very beatable team for a long time now. I don't want to give Calgary all the marks for that win against Tampa, but they're getting a Florida team that should be dialed in, should be focused coming out of the loss to Philly. I'm gonna go with a couple of bets here. Panthers team total over 3.5. I still stand by my belief that with no Hannafin and especially no Tanev, this blue line's a lot weaker for Calgary as far as keeping the puck out of their own net is concerned. And I think it might show up here today in this game, even if Markstrom's in net. Bobrovsky will be in net for Florida here in this game. But yeah, I'm going to go with Florida team total over, and I'm going to go with a little smaller bet as well on the Florida first period puck line in this game. -0.5, +135. Good price. Jump out early. This team always, at least lately, the few losses they have had, they've responded very strongly the next game. I would expect more of the same here from Florida today. So a little Panther puck line in the first period and a little team total on the Panthers as well. All right, what do you think here, Alex? Calgary, Florida.
You know, yeah, this game is going to be a pass for me. I was looking at this and initially thinking, maybe, you know, over trifecta, that's something that you can kind of roll with. But like I said, Calgary is a team that, you know, a lot of moving parts, a lot of injury pieces, even though they're still kind of floating around in the race. And like I said, Florida, we've seen them kind of, you know, play it down a little bit too at times in this run. This is something that they aren't constantly doing. Like I said, Philly's just a team that gives them fits, but I worry about maybe a slower start here. So it's a pass for now, and I'll try and look for something in game, just being a middle of that afternoon contest.
All right. What do you think here in this one, Zach, Calgary and Florida? Your Flames.
I can't bet with the Flames or against the Flames. Every time I do, I lose. So I'll probably stay away from a side on this one. I think I'm going to jump on the team total for Florida as well with you in there. But other than that, probably just going to watch the game. Literally every time if I pick the Flames, they lose. Like the other night I took Tampa. Flames just spanked them. Like, so I'm not picking a side.
Yeah, as far as props, I agree. I mean, with Bailey here. You've got the Huberto Uyghur, former team. I agree, for Calgary. And definitely you could say the same about Matthew Tkachuk on the other side for Florida against Calgary as well. So you got some former player angles that are always worth a look. I mean, Sharon Govich has to be on the radar for you. He continues to be on fire for them. Blake Coleman as well for Calgary. Keep those guys in mind. And then for Florida as well, we're Tarasenko, his second game should be more comfortable. We'll see if he can make an impact here for this Panthers team. Evan Rodriguez here, 2 goals in the last 4 games. So you want a little value here. And Sam Bennett too, Bailey, right? Former Flame. Now with the Panthers, of course. So there's a lot of good former player angles in this game. And in addition to that, maybe consider Sharon Govich for Calgary and maybe Evan Rodriguez for Florida. Like I say, 2 goals in the last 4 games for him. And you're definitely going to get a good price for him to find the back of the net in this one. All right, the rest of the games are all Saturday night, beginning with the Philadelphia Flyers as they head to the struggling Tampa Bay Lightning to take on Tampa Bay. Minus 140 home favorites are the Tampa Bay Lightning in this game, and the total currently sitting at 6.5, shaded to the under. So John Cooper doesn't get angry very often. And even in a couple of bad performances during this malaise that Tampa's been in the last few weeks, he didn't overreact. He didn't scream and yell. He didn't really get too upset. He was visibly upset after the Calgary game. Embarrassing is what he called it. So that's the only hesitation I have here. But I sure as hell ain't laying minus 140 with Tampa. I don't care what Cooper said. This team's just not in good form. Vasilevsky's human. Vasilevsky's given up so many soft goals the last week. It's not even funny right now what we're seeing from him. There's no confidence right here in him at the moment. The defense is slow. They're losing puck battles. Every game I've seen of Tampa recently, including at home where for the large part of the season they played well, not so much recently, but every recent Tampa game I've seen, Alex, I don't know if you agree how much you've seen of Tampa recently, game to game, but from what I've seen, they're losing puck race situations all over the ice. They're losing puck battles. They're not winning one-on-one battles because they're not fast enough to get to those loose pucks right now. And teams are beating them all over the ice like a drum for loose pucks. And when you don't have the puck, you're going to have a much worse chance to win a hockey game. And that's what we're seeing right now from the Tampa Bay Lightning at this point in time. Like Calgary outplayed them. Calgary was the much better team the other night. There was a time halfway through that game, Tampa had 9 shots on goal. 9 at home. Halfway through the game against Calgary. So this is not a team I'm laying a price with. I know those words of Cooper were very stinging, and I'm sure the players will heed them, but they've got to be good enough on the ice to win a game and win these games right now. And right now they're not. Sam Ersson confirmed in net for Philly, Vasilevsky for Tampa. Philly got a big win in Florida. I'm going to split here with Philly team total over, Philly money line, plus 120. I know Cooper was mad. Maybe that gets through and resonates to the players, and they play with their hair on fire, and they snap the skid, and they snap the drought. But I'll take my chances that the problems continue for the Tampa Bay Lightning here tonight. Alex, I just can't lay this price with them right now. Alex, what do you think? Philadelphia, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning are a bad hockey team right now. And they have been for quite a while. And the blueprint's been there for a minute. This is a tired team. This is a team that every little thing.
Tortorella back to Tampa, too. Win one for the Gipper. Come on.
Too.
Yeah.
But every little piece of the big intangibles that made Tampa Bay such a dangerous playoff team and why they won back-to-back cups, why they went to 3 cup finals in a row, they're not doing. Like you said, they're losing puck battles in the corner. They're not controlling. They're not controlling the space around Vasilevsky that well. Usually you keep the crease clean for him, so he's not getting screened. He's getting screened now. Like I said, he looks human. He lets things happen in front of him that he didn't let happen in front of him, or his defenseman didn't let happen in front of him before. Having possession in the neutral zone has been a different thing. When you watch this team, just watch them skate around and watch how they move the puck. Don't look at anything else. Just take a 2-minute stretch and watch a shift of the Lightning, and you'll see that they just do not have that same push, that oomph, that energy that they had when they were a true cup contender. So, we're seeing the curls come home to roost after all the big hockey they played, and this is a tough spot. They should be geared up for it, going up against a Flyers team that I still, have some trepidation about. But I'm just going first period over 1.5, minus $1.26 at FanDuel, up to $1.35. I like that as far as pregame. Anything higher than that, play that live. And also like both teams to score, I grabbed that at plus 170.
All right, so that's a the front end of the over trifecta, just the early part, first period over and first period both teams to score for Alex with Flyers and Lightning. Zach, how about you? Philly, Tampa.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on the first period over as well with Alex there. I think that's a good bet in this game. It'll be interesting to see if Tampa puts out a real bounce back game or not. Philly's a good team, and Torts is going to have them well prepared. So I think I might sprinkle a little bit on the overtime, and that's probably about it for me.
Nothing wrong with that. Let's see if Anthony Duclair makes his Lightning debut as well. Same with Matt Dumba. I'm not seeing any update on that.
I think I did see where Duclair might be in the night. Yeah,
Dumba might be too, actually, because Dumba's already on their depth chart here, and on the third pair with Hayden Fleury, Perbix, Chernak, Hedman, Radish. Of course, you know what? This team misses Sergachev so badly, man. They really miss Mikhail Sergachev as well.
Yeah.
You look at this blue line; he's every bit as good now as Hedman. Hedman's still very good, but Hedman's had a step back this year, from what we've seen from him in years past. And Sergachev was accelerating and improving and becoming that that cowbell defenseman kind of for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And with him being out, I don't think it's a coincidence, that the overall record has been meandering for the Tampa Bay Lightning since Sergachev went down with that injury again. Yeah, like I said, that's a big loss on that blue line for the Tampa Bay Lightning. For props in this game, like I said, for Philly, we've talked about Tyson Forster quite a bit and the form he's been on for this team. So you could consider going back to the well there with him. Scott Lawton, too, is someone that's been a bit of a streaky player. I know he did score a couple of games ago, but definitely Tyson Forster been a force stir, if you will, for the Philadelphia Flyers the last several games, no doubt. All right, next up, we've got Chicago and Washington playing for exercise. We got the Capitals minus 250 or 220, I should say, home favorites. The total here 6, shaded to the under in this matchup. As far as the goaltending situation in this matchup, it looks like we've got Mrazek and Lindgren already confirmed. So we got Peter Mrazek, Chicago. He'll be in net, and Charlie Lindgren here for the Washington Capitals in this game. You look at Chicago, obviously they took advantage. I don't know if it was Chicago playing great, signs of Chicago, maybe being to put things together, or it was just Arizona in an absolutely positively brutal scheduling situation. Returning home from that long East Coast road trip, Chicago jumped on them and won 5-2. They've been off since that game, which took place on Tuesday night, and now they are in Washington here tonight in this game. This Capitals team, it's been win-loss, win-loss, win-loss for them through the last 7 games, 4-3. We'll see if they can finally string a couple of wins together against Chicago. That's going to end up being the question. I'm going to look at the over here in this game, and maybe over bifecta. 1.5 and 5.5, and there are 5.5s. I know I've got 6 up there on the screen, but the total's fallen to 5.5 right now at Bet Online, Bookmaker, a couple other books. This total's dropped to 5.5. I mean, you're talking about. I know Chicago has been an offensively challenged team for, pretty much the last 2 months, and even with Connor Bedard back, it's not like their offense has taken off the last several games. But maybe getting 5 goals behind Arizona on Tuesday night, gets some confidence back in their system offensively, just at least a little bit. I'm not saying they're going to score 5 tonight, obviously, but at least put 2 or 3 on the board. And I think Chicago could be capable of that. And I certainly think Washington is capable of generating offense here tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks, because if you look at it, Washington actually has been in a good rhythm offensively. You go back and take their last 10 games, and we have seen the Washington Capitals score 3+ goals in 8 of their last 10 games entering this game tonight against the Blackhawks. So I think a first period over and a full game over. I really like the full game over more so in this one. Now that it's 5.5 at Bet Online, that's the way I'm going to look in this game between the Hawks and the Caps. Alex, what about you here? Chicago, Washington.
Yeah, this is a game. I'm probably just going to look at the Hawks team total over, something that I haven't bet all year long. But like you said, just kind of want to see if they can take some of that momentum from the last game and just kind of roll it over offensively, right? Like
it's 2.5 at a plus
2.5,
price for the over,
yeah,
and you
plus,
don't get that every day.
yeah, plus 108 at FanDuel. I think I saw plus 105 or plus 100 at Bet Online. Yeah, that's what we're taking a shot. I think the Caps could give up 3 goals here and win this game 6-3. That's entirely possible. Or they could, it could be a 4-3 kind of an overtime game. I don't want to have to deal with Washington. I've had a bad read on Washington, seems like the last 2 years, to be honest. But I just want to see if the Hawks can prove to me they can get 3 goals in another road game. And at plus money, I'm wanting to find that out. So small play on the Hawks, team total over. That's the only thing I like here in this one.
Washington's on a huge over surge, by the way, 8-1-1 to the over for the Washington Capitals in their last 10 games entering tonight. Zach, what do you think here, Chicago, Washington?
Yeah, that's enough to get me on the over for sure in this game. I'll probably also jump on that team total for Chicago too. Can't pass up on that plus money at only 2.5. So hopefully lots of goals in this game. It's crazy to think that Washington's still kind of hunting at a playoff spot somehow. So they could string some wins together and maybe surprise some people. You just never know. But it'll be interesting to see if we can get a good race going in the East this year.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, Washington's not out yet, but obviously they've got a lot of work to do. I don't expect them to make it, but don't tell
That would
Ovechkin
be crazy if they would make it.
Tell
But
Ovechkin and Wilson and all those veterans on that team that they're out, because they're going to keep playing like they are still very much alive in the race. Yeah, there's a lot of good props for Washington because they've been actually one of the teams that I've had a lot of good goal prop cashes with lately. LaPierre, we had him the other night. He scored again. Keep an eye on this young kid. Got his first NHL goal against Pittsburgh, Ivan Miroshnichenko. Okay, he's really, really got some high-end skill. Sonny Milano, we've talked about him. He's even on a third-line role. He's produced lately for the Capitals. So those are some of the main really good value props I would look at on the Washington side of the equation here. As far as Chicago goes, we always say focus your attention on the Bedard line with Kurashev and Nick Foligno. They're going to probably do the majority of the damage, if they end up producing offensively tonight. So those would definitely be some of the props I'd be interested in here in this one. All right, original 6 rivals meet again, and they haven't played each other since, I believe, October or November. Like, this has been a long time between games for 2 teams that play in the same division. The Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the Montreal Canadiens. The Leafs minus 180 road favorites, 6.5 being the total here in this game. Apparently, just news breaking on this while we were doing the show, but it looks like Mitch Marner is out for Toronto tonight. Lower body injury, won't play tonight, day to day. He'll be assessed further when they get back to TO, which I believe is after this game. So William Nylander looks like he will be back up on the top line tonight with Austin Matthews, and Tyler Bertuzzi looks like has been placed on the top line. So I've already talked about how Tyler Bertuzzi has picked things up here lately for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You would expect that maybe that top line opportunity tonight he will. It'll be Max Domi with John Tavares, and I'm going back to Cali. Cali Yarncroke is up to the second line tonight for Toronto. So Yarncroke's probably got value. Max Domi used to be with the Montreal Canadiens. So not only is Domi up to the second line, but you got the former team in play here with that betting angle. Nyes is down to the third line. That's very interesting here. Now he did get it's a sigh of relief for the Leafs that there was a collision with him and Brad Marchand against Boston the other night. I thought maybe it would be a serious injury, but the fact that he's able to play tonight is big for Toronto. Nyes with Camp and McMahon on that third line. And it looks like Connor Dewar, the acquisition from Minnesota at the deadline yesterday, will make his Leafs debut on the fourth line. And Joel Edmondson on the blue line will make his debut tonight as well for Toronto. It looks like, as far as goaltending, Samsonov for the Leafs, Sam Montembeault here for Montreal. It feels like a get-well spot for Toronto. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you look at recent meetings, they've played pretty well here in Montreal, but not at this price. And with Marner out, I'm getting a little cold feet on that, I must admit. Yeah, they've won 3 in a row against Montreal. It's actually, no, the home team's actually controlled things lately. Montreal's won 4 straight at home against Toronto, and Toronto's won 4 straight at home against Montreal. So it's actually been a homer series. 8 straight games head-to-head, the home team's won. I don't think the home team's winning tonight, though. Toronto needs a good game. Toronto needs a step-up game after the loss to Boston. 2 losses in 2 of their last 3 games, both to Boston. Now the flu bug has been running through the team this week, so let's see. Hopefully they're a little healthier tonight. But I've talked myself out of Toronto. I was initially looking maybe Toronto first period puck line, Toronto in regulation maybe, but I've talked myself out of that. There's something about, and the trade deadline, they didn't make that big splash. To me, that's not the be-all, end-all for the Leafs, that they didn't make that big splash yesterday. But what will the players think? I'm sure some of the players thought that maybe they'd be making a big impact in the trade deadline. How do they respond here? There's new faces in the lineup. Does it improve chemistry that first game with the new faces, Edmondson and Dewar? Does it disrupt chemistry? There's just a lot floating around in this game that makes it unsavory for me from a betting perspective. So I taught myself out of Toronto. Probably going to pass this game. Alex, what do you think? Leafs, Canadiens.
Yeah, like I said, Leafs needing a win, needing to kind of get some momentum going, playing against their rival, Hockey Night in Canada, and it's been a home-dominated series. I would lean towards sprinkling toward the Habs, but I'm not going to get there with that. I'm just going to stay with the draw, plus 370. This definitely feels like it could be one of those 4-3 games where Habs get a lead early, Leafs look like shit, then all of a sudden they find their form, and then it's an overtime or a shootout, and we'll see who gets the win from there. But I'm going with draw season here, plus 370.
Yeah, the draw. I mean, the draw. I could see the draw happening here, potentially here tonight. We did see it earlier this year, and actually the one and only meeting this year was back in October. First night of the season. It was the first game of the season opener for both teams. 6-5 Toronto in a shootout in that game. 2 straight overs as well. I'm not so sure this will be an over, though. I think Toronto, especially with Edmondson back there, the pace is going to slow with Edmondson back there. That's definitely not a guy that makes things better for overs. Now that he's on that blue line for Toronto, he's going to be good defensively. He's going to block shots. He's going to clear the front of the net. And he's going to slow down the pace a little bit probably as well. So I'm totally off the total. I have no opinion on it whatsoever. Alex likes the draw here. Zach, what about you here? Leafs and Habs.
Yeah, I think I'm going to double up here with Austin Matthews anytime goal and Leafs win. So anytime Leafs win, because I kind of feel in a little bit of overtime as well. Not too confident on laying any money on it, but I think Matthews is going to tuck at least one tonight, and the Leafs will get the win. They seem to get the dub with some of their players out of the lineup, some of their star players. So you've seen it in the past. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a big deal with Marner out, and those guys will slot in good and get a better opportunity.
All right, there we go. I like what you're thinking there with that. Is if you're going to take Toronto there, that's you want to give yourself some kind of value. And that would be the way probably to go about doing so here in this game. Maybe, put the Leafs in some kind of same game parlay with some kind of player prop involving the Leafs. So definitely something that you could maybe roll with in that game. All right, next up, playing for exercise, 2 of the bottom feeders in their respective conferences, the Ottawa Senators and the San Jose Sharks. Ottawa minus 220, road favorites, 6.5 the total. It's funny, our guy Matt Robinson, who joins us Tuesdays and Thursdays on the show, he's going to be in San Jose March 26th, which just happens to be our free-for-all betcast night for Dallas at San Jose. He'll be there at SAP Center or whatever the hell they're calling it now in San Jose for the game. And I said to him, not only have fun, but make sure you put your feet up. You'll certainly have a lot of room to do so when you're in the building for that game. And yeah, Matty will be there for Dallas, San Jose, March 26th in San Jose for that. As far as tonight goes, I mean, we've just absolutely clowned the San Jose goaltending, and rightfully so. It's been absolutely atrocious. And look, Mackenzie Blackwood's not coming back anytime soon. Somehow they think Vitek Vanacek is going to be this big upgrade. They trade for him from New Jersey yesterday. So you've got basically now with Blackwood out, Vanacek on IR, and of course they trade away Kaapo Kähkönen. That's the one good thing about that trade. They got rid of Kaapo Kähkönen, who's absolutely atrocious lately. But now you've got 2, and I mean, you talk about green goaltenders at the NHL level. I mean green goaltenders at the NHL level. Devin Cooley, who's been nothing but an AHL goalie for the last couple of years, he's the backup now to Magnus Corona for the San Jose Sharks, who now, by default, Magnus Corona is the number 1 goalie at the moment for the San Jose Sharks. That's where we're at now. Magnus Corona is the number 1 goaltender in the organization for the San Jose Sharks with that blistering Vezina Trophy form of 5.83 goals against and .830 save percentage going into this hockey game.
Bring back Nabokov.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wow. 5.3 goals against and 8-something save percentage. And that's the number one goalie this team has now, with Vanacek and Blackwood on IR. Look, eventually Blackwood and Vanacek is going to be the tandem for them, but they're both out. So it's Corona and this kid that they just got from Buffalo, hit from the Buffalo organization. He was playing in Rochester, Devin Cooley. And you want to know what Devin Cooley's numbers were in Rochester? Oh, Vezina, like 3.77 goals against, .891 save percentage down there for Devin Cooley. I mean, if I lose this, I'm gonna be beside myself, because I'm gonna be like, how the fuck did this end up being a low scoring game? And by the way, Anton Forsberg, who's probably going to be in net for Ottawa, he's given up 3 goals or more now in 3 straight starts. He had played pretty well, but it's kind of gone backward. This is the most obvious over trifecta I've ever seen. And that's kind of what scares me a little bit, just a little bit, because it's just so blatantly obvious that we should all be hammering the over trifecta in this game. But hammer it I did. Over 1.5 first period, both teams to score first period, over 6.5, Senators and Sharks. We absolutely should see plenty of goals galore in this game. And like I say, Magnus Krona looked like Magnus Krona again the other night, taking on the New York Islanders. What do you think here, Alex? Ottawa, San Jose.
So I mentioned about 24, 48 hours ago how I'm working on my goalie rankings. I'm waiting for everything to come through after the trade deadline. And San Jose is the worst team in the league, but this is the worst goaltending room. I don't even have a rating now for this room, with Magnus Krona being the number one goalie. And you mentioned Devin Cooley, who, let's keep in mind, his numbers, you mentioned in Rochester, not that great. 6.62, 3.77 goals against average, .891 save percentage. Last year, he had a decent record as a backup in Milwaukee behind Askarov, who more than likely will be the backup for the Predators next season. And the year before that, I watched a little bit of him. He was with the Chicago Wolves, had some time in the ECHL. This guy's probably not going to be – it's not that he's horrible. It's just that he's just not that good. There's a difference. Magnus Krona's not that good at all. He's awful. But Cooley, I just don't see a lot of upside to him, and I certainly don't see any upside of him playing now. He's one of those guys who maybe could give you a spot start here or there, but to have him be an NHL backup right now, the Sharks are in bad shape. Even for a tanking team, this is a terrible tandem. So you have to go over with them. This is a cheap price for over 6.5. I got minus $1.18 at FanDuel. I have over 1.5 minus $1.46. I'm playing that half unit. I'm going to try and add some more on just as it goes down, $1.30, $1.20. I'll keep sprinkling it as it goes down toward plus money, waiting for the first goal. And I'll also have a little bit of both teams to score. That first period over has cashed in 6 of the last 7 meetings between these two teams. And like I said, if these two teams just kind of roll the puck out, play for exercise, we should see goals galore in this one. So, yeah, over trifecta for me, but adding just a little bit small pregame on the first period over, and then adding a bit more incrementally as we get into the game.
Yeah. The most obvious over trifecta, one of the most obvious over trifectas since we've been implementing that betting approach with the first period, both teams to score, and the full game over in the same game. I'd be shocked if this is 2-1, 3-1 hockey with these two teams and these two goalies here tonight, especially on the San Jose side of the equation for sure. By the way, let's update you quickly on these early games. We've got goals in all 3 games now. 1-0 Carolina leading New Jersey, 1-0 Nashville leading Columbus, and it's 2-1 for Edmonton leading Buffalo. How's that over team total Oilers? How's that first period over, and how's that full game over for yours truly looking in that Oilers-Sabres game right now? And Alex has already hit the first period over as well. So it's always nice to start the day on a good note. And that's the beauty, and this is why we talk team totals with the bigger favorites. Like if you've got Edmonton puck line or Edmonton in regulation, and even if you've got Edmonton first period puck line right now, you're sweating still because it's back to 2-1. I don't have to worry about what Buffalo does in this game offensively when I take team total. All I've got to worry about is Edmonton get me my 4 goals, and they're already halfway home with that. So that is why we always say that's why we implement the team total type of bet into the show. It's a very good approach, especially for the bigger favorites. You don't have to sweat as much because you don't have to worry about what they do defensively or how their goaltender plays. You just worry, get me my 4 goals, and I'm a happy man. Zach, what do you think here? Ottawa, San Jose.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on the first period over as well. And then I'm going to hit a couple player props in this one with anytime point for Kachuk, anytime point for Timmy up front. And then, yeah, kind of just hopefully there's a lot of scoring in this one.
We'd all be shocked and dismayed and utterly, stunned, if this is some kind of defensive battle here with these two teams tonight. Now, there are some good prop looks here. Again, our guy Duclair is gone from San Jose, and we had been talking a lot about taking the props with him. But, Zadina, Granlund, and Zetterlund, suddenly that top line's been pretty decent for the San Jose Sharks lately. Eklund on the second line, too, might be able to get on the board. Pinto, Batherson have been good lately for the Ottawa Senators. Those would be the ones maybe I would start with for their props on their side. Is Kubalik heating up? Well, he did score, and he's got 2 points in the last 3 games, and he's streaky. So maybe it's a sign that Dominic Kubalik can kind of get things rolling here for the Ottawa Senators. And certainly the opponent might allow him to keep the offense going here tonight in this game. All right, next up, St. Louis Blues, New York Rangers. We've got the Rangers minus 210 home favorites here at Madison Square Garden, and the total here sitting at 6, shaded to the under in this matchup. As far as the goaltending here in this Blues-Rangers game, we don't have confirmations, but we have a projection of Jordan Binnington for St. Louis and Igor Shesterkin for the New York Rangers here in this one. The Blues, of course, look, this is another team. This is a team that I thought could have traded away. There's 2 players that a lot of teams were after from the St. Louis Blues, Pavel Buchnevich and Colton Parayko. And apparently the asking price that Doug Armstrong laid out for these 2 players was too rich, too high to pull the trigger on a trade for a lot of these teams. So it ended up being a situation where he ended up not trading them. He didn't get the deal he liked, and the teams that were interested in Buchnevich and Parayko weren't willing to pay what St. Louis was looking for. So as a result, these guys are still here with the St. Louis Blues. Now, their position in the standings is very, very tenuous right now. If you look at it, they've got 67 points. They are currently 6 points out of the wild card. They're not totally out of it, but they don't feel like they're totally in it. And they haven't played like they're totally in it the last couple of games. I have not liked what I've seen from St. Louis. 4-2 loss to the Islanders, 4-1 loss to the Devils earlier this week. And I took New Jersey in multiple forms against St. Louis earlier this week. Now you got a Rangers team that's off back-to-back losses, the 4-3 shootout loss to Toronto, which was a terrific hockey game, and then an equally terrific hockey game on Monday night, against the Florida Panthers, 4-2 Florida in that game. But again, those 2 losses against 2 of the better teams in the conference, there's no shame in losing those 2 games. They've been off since that game on Monday night. You've had basically 4 days off prior to tonight. I think it's right the ship time, in my opinion, here in this game for the New York Rangers. I'm going to go Rangers first period puck line, and I'm going to either go regulation if the price isn't too expensive, or full game puck line. I might do a puck line split here. The regulation's minus 126. That's digestible. We can handle laying a price like that. That's how I'm going to go about it. We'll do Rangers first period puck line -0.5 plus 145, and also Rangers in regulation around minus 126. I just think they take care of business here. St. Louis is starting to fade a little bit. It's losing already to the Islanders and Devils. Rangers have been rested off 2 losses. They should be ready, and if they're not, shame on them. What do you think here, Alex? Blues, Rangers.
Yeah, just keeping this simple. We're going first period over 1.5 minus $1.16. This is a draw season candidate as far as situation goes. But like you said, Blues kind of fading. Rangers with a couple of tough losses. This could be one of those games where they show up hot and heavy and put the screws to St. Louis at home. So staying away from the draw here in this one, just going first period over 1.5.
All right, first period over 1.5 Blues Rangers for Alex. Zach, how about you? St. Louis Blues, New York Rangers.
I'm going to take both teams to score in the first period. I think the Blues are going to get on the board, and I think the Rangers are going to kind of take over the rest of the game. So both teams to score in the first, and then I might wait for a little live over bet, seeing if it kind of gets a little lower, and then maybe jump on an over.
Yeah.
It's a good
All right.
strategy.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a good strategy. And that's definitely, that's definitely something to employ, because you're always looking to get better prices, and sometimes you get, before the game. And that's definitely something
And
you can look at.
you're taking a slight bit of risk by having both teams to score pregame, because obviously, all right, but here's the thing: you're covered by one of those teams score early. You can adapt and make some shifts and changes on that first period over a full game over. But it's definitely an option to have one or the other in pocket. We don't always have to have first period over. That's more of a time constraint thing. But if you see spot where, okay, I like goals early, you can grab both teams to score first as your kind of backup, if that makes sense, and then look for a live over. So you can kind of alternate it, what I normally do, but it still works out the same way.
Yeah, definitely. We're not going to sweep the early games, unfortunately. At least we're not going to go undefeated in the early games, because we're not going to win this first period over with Nashville Columbus. And it's all 17-8 shots in favor of Nashville in the first period. They are up 1-0, but it could have been worse. It was actually a pretty solid period here for Tarasov. But we do have the team total, and the full game over is still not dead. We could see things open up second period, third period in this game. We could see Tarasov, as Pie Guy says, maybe fatigue a little bit, because he's had a heavy workload. It's been a shooting gallery for the Nashville Predators here in the first period of this game. As far as props in this one, Blues and Rangers, Buchnevich against his former team is such an obvious candidate because A, he's in great form offensively, and B, he's facing the Rangers. So it makes a ton of sense there, to look with props involving him. Saad, Thomas, Kyrou. Kyrou's kind of cooled off a little bit. Even my guy, Jake, won't you be my neighbor? Jake Neighbors has been a little quieter lately for the Blues. For the New York Rangers, Vinny Trocheck, Lafreniere. I'm going to take a shot too. Jack Roslovic making his Rangers debut on the top line with Zibanejad and Kreider. I guarantee you that guy's going to be more impactful scoring-wise than that useless tit Jimmy Vesey was playing on that top line for the New York Rangers. I like Roslovic's game. You put him with good players, he can do something for you, and he's going to be with Zibanejad and Kreider. They're desperately looking for a right-wing top-line player to complement Zibanejad and Kreider. They gave Vesey a shot. It didn't go well. Roslovic is, he's a solid player. I don't think he's upper echelon, but I certainly think he's got the potential to be better in that spot than Jimmy Vesey was for the New York Rangers. So that one is definitely, to be honest with you, that Jack Roslovic bet, that's on the radar as potentially for my bargain bin special later in the show, plus 350 at FanDuel for him to score a goal tonight, playing with Zibanejad and Kreider. All right, next up, we've got the Detroit. The rest of the games are the late games, all three of them at 10 p.m. Eastern. Detroit Red Wings, Vegas Golden Knights. We've got Vegas minus 200 home favorites now in this game, back-to-back, of course, for the Red Wings on the road. And it's always that Eddie Lack, Jason Demers special, if you will. They've both warned me about this kind of situation in the past. Of course, Jason Demers, very familiar with Arizona. He played there with the Coyotes. Eddie Lack lives there now, pumping his real estate business over down there now. And they both say that these teams that go from Vegas to Arizona or vice versa, these are always where you worry, what the fuck have you done in between the last game and this game? What kind of entertainment and enjoyment have you gotten yourself into potentially? I don't know if Detroit will, though, because they've had such a little time in between games. Like, they were in Arizona last night. They were awful. It's unbelievable how atrocious the Red Wings were last night, especially in that opening period. And now they go to Vegas on a back-to-back. I don't want anything to do with this game. I've now seen enough out of Detroit in 2 games minus their captain, Dylan Larkin, that I can't touch them now without Dylan Larkin. They didn't look good at all the first game without Dylan Larkin against the Islanders. And now to see how they played last night without him, I knew they'd miss him. I didn't know they'd miss him that much when you've still got Kane, DeBrincat, and Perron. You've still got plenty of offense, but they miss him in the D zone as well. They miss him on faceoffs. They miss the leadership quotient. There's everything that Dylan Larkin brings to the Detroit Red Wings. They miss it because they've looked awful without him in these 2 games. No, there's no way I'm on Detroit here tonight on a back-to-back on the road, but I'm not ready to lay minus 200 with Vegas either. Slumping, lose again to Vancouver, although that was a tough spot, but it might take a game or two for the Mantha and Hanifin, the chemistry to develop and get comfortable with their team. I also think Vegas, look, I still view them right now until they get things in place and they get their defensive game in order, I still view them as more of an over team at the time being until I see consistency and improvement defensively. A little better against Vancouver, but they still gave up over 30 shots in that game, in that loss to the Canucks the other night. So definitely, I think a first period over would be worth a look in this game, Detroit and Vegas. And I might do a bifecta here. Not a trifecta, just a bifecta here. Over 1.5 first period, over 6.5, but nothing to do with the side. I want absolutely nothing to do with the side. I'm not trusting Detroit anymore without Larkin. They've put 2 games of hideous work on the board without him, but I'm not laying a minus 200 price with a struggling Vegas team that's still trying to find their footing. What do you think here in this one, Alex? Detroit, Vegas.
Yeah, I could see this being a sloppy game, especially starting. So I'm going first period over again, minus $1.24, up to $1.30, 35. I'm seeing at Caesars. And I'll take a smaller sprinkle on both teams to score plus 174. But like you said, Wayne's, without Larkin, he's the heart and soul of that team. They kind of, falling a bit flat. But I think we can see at least a couple of goals scored here. So more on the first period over 1.5, but just a little bit sprinkle on both teams to score.
All right, there we go. Yeah, I mean, they're both in. They both played against Vancouver the other night to answer the question. Noah Hannafin and Anthony Mantha. They're both in. They're both good to go. I know they traded for Tomas Hertl from San Jose, but Hertl's still a ways away from returning. He's still on IR for the Vegas Golden Knights, so you won't see Hertl make his Golden Knights debut right away. Zach, what do you think here? Red Wings, Golden Knights.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ian. I'm definitely not picking a side in this one. Super disappointed last night with Detroit's performance and getting shut out and the way the game was. Just from puck drop, they weren't even in it really. They had maybe one good shift and Arizona scored power play goal, and it was over in the first period. It's crazy. So definitely not picking a side on this one. Maybe a little player prop action, but honestly, probably just staying away. I might throw a little bit on Kane into Brinkat anytime point, hoping that they get going and that they do something on after this losing streak that they're kind of getting into right now, and maybe something on Mantha to get at any time point, getting something on the board for the Knights. But yeah, definitely not picking a side. Might not even watch this one.
Yeah, I'm definitely in one of those zones now where he did shoot the puck a lot last night. He had chances. The puck didn't go in, but he was getting those looks as he should, playing on the top line with Kane and DeBrincat. I'm locked in to keep betting Joe Veleno until the guy scores at this point, but we'll keep it small, but you're still getting great prices there with him. As far as Vegas, if you're going to look in their direction with player props, Amadio has been one of their better players of late, even during the slump that they've been in. So maybe look in that direction. He's on the third line, but he's been chipping in offensively. Carlson, Mantha, Stevenson. I think there's value with those three. The chemistry with Barbashev, Eichel, and Marchessault, it hasn't really come all the way back just yet. And it's not surprising. Eichel was out for such a long period of time. And he's shooting the puck a ton, as Terry says. The shots on goal would be worth a look for Eichel, but hasn't found that release point just yet since he's been back. We'll see if he can get on the board here for the Vegas Golden Knights here tonight in this game. Like I said, this is just, it can't lay it with the Vegas and they're I think they're still just 2-9 Vegas in their last 11 games. So you can't lay minus 200 with that kind of profile, but I'm out on Detroit after last night, and 0-2 now, and 2 bad performances without Dylan Larkin and James Reimer in net tonight here for Detroit on a back-to-back as well. Aiden Hill expected, but not confirmed yet for Vegas. All right, arguably the game of the night, and usually it's the game of the night or one of the games of the night that is in the title, the YouTube title for every episode of the Ice Guys, and Winnipeg, Vancouver is in the title, and it should be an excellent game tonight. We've got Vancouver minus 145, home favorites, returning home off a road trip, a 3-0 road trip for the Vancouver Canucks, 5.5 the total in this game. The Jets played last night, though, in Seattle, a 3-0 shutout win for them. So it is back-to-back for the Jets on the road. Yes, Vancouver's coming back home off a road trip, but it's not Malinsky special criteria. Malinsky special criteria is a 4-game road trip or longer. Vancouver's road trip was only 3 games, and it was Anaheim, L.A., and Vegas. So the travel wasn't that substantial, quite honestly. So it's not that bad of a home game off a road trip spot for the Vancouver Canucks in this game. As far as Winnipeg and the status of Toffoli, I'm just looking right now. He's apparently not sure if he's going to be ready to join the team and be in the lineup. He's headed back to Canada. I'm seeing that it could be another game or two before we see him in the lineup. So right now, no. We're leaning no right now with Toffoli playing for the Winnipeg Jets. And so keep an eye on that. For Vancouver tonight in this game, it looks like they're pretty healthy, actually, for the most part, other than Tyler Myers on the blue line. They're mostly healthy. We saw Laurent Brossoit, and again, I said on the show yesterday, Laurent Brossoit is capable, and he showed it last night with a nice performance against Seattle. Obviously, tonight, back-to-back, it'll be Connor Hellebuck. They saved him for this game against the Vancouver Canucks. Thatcher Demko should be in net for the Canucks in this game. You notice something I have not said a lot on this show so far today in terms of bets I like, and that's one of my favorite four-letter words in NHL betting. But I like it in this game. Give me the draw, Winnipeg and Vancouver. I think it's going to be that kind of game, competitive hockey, two good teams going at it. And Winnipeg's had a lot of success in Vancouver, so I'm not rushing to lay $1.40. I got my money with Vancouver on that road trip. Thank you, Canucks, for the win against LA. Thank you, Canucks, for the win against Vegas. I'm not laying $1.45 with them in this spot. And Winnipeg, like I said, they played very well here in Vancouver, including 4-2. The last time they were here a month ago, February 17th, and they've actually beaten Vancouver 4 straight times. So there's always that one team you have trouble with. And for Vancouver, that's been Winnipeg lately. So just the draw for me. The total could go either way. Vancouver's trying to tighten things up defensively. They've been dead nuts under in 3 straight games, the Vancouver Canucks, at least in the full game they have. I think the first period over in the Vegas game hit, but as far as full game is concerned, they've been going under in 3 straight games. Tocchet preached to tighten up defensively, and they have heeded those demands from the coach, and they are playing a much defensive, tighter structure of game right now. So I wouldn't be rushing to bet over even at 5.5 here in this game. All right, Alex, what do you think here? One of the games of this Saturday card, Winnipeg, Vancouver.
Yeah, I think this is going to have that high playoffs kind of intensity, but that low kind of pace, kind of low and slow hockey, a lot of physical hockey, especially Winnipeg's second night of a back-to-back. And that was a tough ball game. They got it, it was a good win, shutting down a Seattle team that needed those points. Vancouver, like I said, coming back off the road trip, not a long one, but still, I think we can see this kind of just have a slow start, slow pace. So I'm right there with you. I got that draw plus 340 over at FanDuel.
It's funny. I feel like this is a low-scoring game and tight checking, just the way it's set and the way Winnipeg wants to play. Like Winnipeg, Rick Bowness, after the loss to Seattle at home 4-3, says we got away from our structure. But what did we see last night against Seattle? They got right fucking back to that structure. 3-0 shutout, and Vancouver's been preaching that. But here's the dilemma. Here's the fly in the ointment. Look at the series history. Look at the last 6 meetings, Jets versus Canucks. Every single one has had at least 6 goals. Every one of the last 6 head-to-head meetings has had 6 goals or more, which makes 5.5 look like, geez, you're asking 2 teams that head-to-head 6 straight times have had at least 6 goals in their games, and the total's 5.5 here. So that's why I think the under, even though it makes sense as far as current form and what we're seeing from these teams the last few games, series history, 6 straight games with 6 goals or more. It makes it hard to bet under 5.5. What do you think here, Zach? Winnipeg, Vancouver.
Yeah, it's definitely, I feel like it's going to be one of those playoff type atmosphere games for sure. Yeah, it's hard to argue with all those games going to at least 6 goals, right? So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. I think with that being said, I might just wait for something a little bit live, see how that first period plays out, or maybe even the first 10, you could get a pretty good judge of how the game's going to be if it's a little more run and gun. And, both teams trying to play to their structure, might be able to expose each other. Who knows? But yeah, I think I might have to just wait till a little something live. It's going to be interesting to see how these Canadian teams kind of finish up the last quarter of the year here with Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vancouver, Toronto, right? All pretty good contending teams this year. So it's nice to see. So I hope Winnipeg finishes strong as well, as much as I don't like them, but it's good to see all these teams competing and rather them knock off some other teams.
Yeah, and like I say, this is starting to look like, at least for Canada and the Canadian NHL teams, one of the better, more optimistic playoff years that they'll have going in. That maybe, just maybe, at least, never mind winning the Stanley Cup, just get a Canadian team into the Stanley Cup final. Can we at least ask for that? I'm not even asking to win the cup anymore. Just get one of these damn
back.
teams.
We need it back in the finals for sure. Get that.
Yeah, that's all.
That energy
but
going in Canada.
yeah, but as you know, the best chance maybe in years for some team out of Canada to make the Stanley Cup final this year doesn't mean it will happen,
Yeah.
as we know.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. But yeah, as far as props in this game, look, I mentioned all the Jets that none of them unfortunately hit last night, but still, Nemesnikov has got value, and Iafallo, Niederreiter. I'd still think about those same three. Vancouver, Höglander on the top line for the Vancouver Canucks for sure. Maybe Connor Garland too. He's starting to percolate even down on the third line with the Lindholm and it's not Delivery, it's Di Giuseppe on that third line. So those would be some of the props I'd look at. But again, in a game that could be low scoring, make sure you tighten the belt a little bit if you're going to bet player props in this game. All right, final game of this massive Saturday slate. We wrap up with the Dallas Stars taking on the Los Angeles Kings. Even money, -110, both sides here in this game, and the total sitting at 6 shaded to the over. Well, it's not a game. It's not a card where I have as many draw bets as I sometimes have for a big Saturday card, but we saved the 2 draw bets that I like the most till right at the very end. And that's what I like here is another draw here, Stars and Kings. Stars on a back-to-back after the and finally, it was a sight for sore eyes to see the Dallas Stars not just beat an inferior team, but put them away. Like that game was never in doubt. 5-1 Dallas beating the Anaheim Ducks last night. You want to start to see more of that when they play, teams of inferior quality. And finally, we saw one of those games from the Stars last night against Anaheim. Now, it's interesting that Peter DeBoer chose to go with Jake Ottinger last night against the Anaheim Ducks. Didn't save him for the better opponent here, the LA Kings, which means it's probably Wedgwood time. It's time to go back to the golf course. That's what I'm going to start calling him. It's going to be the golf course in net, Scott Wedgwood. And the reason I say that is because Wedge, obviously, is in his last name, but also one of the golf courses that's just down the road in Hamilton from me, Wedgwood Golf Center. So there you go. So that's where we're going to start. So the golf course is in net tonight for the Dallas Stars, we think anyway. Scott Wedgwood here for Dallas tonight in this one, and Cam Talbot for the LA Kings expected to be in net for them. Adrian Kempe remains out. Arvidsson's close to a return, but I don't think he's quite ready yet for the LA Kings, and it looks like still no Tyler Seguin tonight for the Dallas Stars, but obviously they've been able to cope without him, and so they should with all the guys that can score for them, and Hintz and Robertson and Duchesne and Marchment, and then, of course, these 2 kids, Johnston and Stankoven, that have been lighting things up lately for Dallas. So, I saw LA struggle to beat Ottawa the other night, so, I think if I were to play a side here in this game, and if you look at series history, Dallas has won 4 of the last 5 meets. Dallas is just a better team. I like LA. I like that they're still trying to battle and they're in a wild card spot. I think they'll get in the playoffs, but I still think Dallas is the better of these 2 teams. I'm not betting Dallas, but I don't want to just say draw and not throw out a lean from a side perspective. If I had to lean from a side standpoint in this game, I would lean Dallas, even on the back-to-back and even with Wedgwood in net. I think it's a cheap price because they're better, but just the draw for me in this game. What do you think, Alex? Dallas, LA?
Yeah, you forgot the third component to that nickname, Wedgwood, because if Jake Ottinger doesn't get his shit together and they have to go to Scott Wedgwood in the playoff time, they'll be getting ready to go to a golf course. So that's definitely a formidable nickname for sure. But like I said,
Alex on his best day, Wedgwood, but I wouldn't want him, game in, game out in the playoffs.
In a 7-game series, I wouldn't trust him. But this should be a fun one. I think we could see back and forth pace here. These are 2 teams that desperately need not just the points; they need to get back into good form. LA at home has been awful all year long. And Dallas, like I said, we're just kind of just seeing them just float through the motions, play down to some certain teams. I think this is going to be a fun one. So I like the first period over. I like the full game over 6 minus $1.15. Got that at BetMGM. And I also like the draw here. I grabbed that plus 350 at FanDuel. So I also will have, with that being said, over 6 and a draw. I automatically grab a little small price of the correct score. So I'm going Tree plus 1,300 over at FanDuel as well.
All right, liking the over here as well, overs and the draw as well. Landon is a big Dallas Stars fan. He's on our betcasts quite often. I hope he's doing well, but he says Jason Robertson, Robo, going to score tonight for Dallas. He's back where he grew up. Yeah, he's a California guy. It's actually the same angle I mentioned, Landon, about his brother, Nick Robertson. When Toronto went out there and the Leafs played the Kings, I said, watch out for Nick Robertson. playing close to home with family in attendance. He didn't score that night, but yeah, that's a good angle to consider again tonight. And you hope Jason, in this case, Jason Robertson, ends up finding the back of the net because, yes, he is back home close with family. I'm sure there's going to be some family and friends in attendance there in LA because I know they were there to watch Nick when Toronto played there in LA a month or two ago. And definitely you could see that again tonight. The family support in full force for Jason Robertson tonight for playing in LA. What do you think here, Zach? Stars, Kings?
Yeah, I'm thinking first period tie out of these two tonight, and then I'm going with Dallas in regulation. I think Dallas is the better team. I think they're going to continue to prove the last part of this season here that they're one of the best teams in the West, if not possibly the best team in the West coming down the stretch here. So I think the addition of Stankoven has worked out well. We'll see how long that continues. If it was just a little bit of that fluke at the start type things and really starts to simmer down, but he's fit in really nice. Wyatt Johnson, I think, is one of the most underrated younger NHLers out there as of right now. So I like their team, and hopefully if Wedgwood is going tonight, that he's playing well.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, for the Kings, as far as player props go, there's actually a couple good looks here. Laferriere, Alex Turcotte, Matt Robinson mentioned him earlier this week. He's on the top line with Kopitar and Byfield. And look, it's feast or famine with these guys. Like, they're on the top line, but doesn't always mean they're going to score. But at the prices you're getting, you got to at least take a shot, whether they score or not. But Alex Turcotte with Kopitar and Byfield. And of course, it goes without saying, Kevin Fiala. This guy is Kevin Fiala, fire right now for the LA Kings at this point in time. But he's just absolutely on fire right now for them. Fiala. There we go. Fiarla. There we go.
A little shaky.
That's a little shaky. That's not good. I've had better.
I got a quick question, though, and Zach, and I posed it to you, Ian, too. I haven't bet this often with the first period draw, but just kind of looking at that when you mentioned that, I looked at the numbers here. So you can bet first period draw at FanDuel plus 170. But you can also go correct scores, tie scoreless plus 390, 1-1 tie plus 550, and 2-2 tie plus 3,000. So would you consider possibly maybe taking a unit, splitting it across all four, or just having something a little bit heavier on the draw at any score and then dabbling smaller in some of those exact correct scores in the first period?
Yeah, maybe potentially. I haven't honestly really looked at it that way too often. Usually when I'm betting first period draw in my mind, I'm thinking 0-0 and 1-1. So that's usually kind of where my head's at in that. And so I'm maybe not too confident with the first period over because I'm thinking, maybe it's going to be a 0-0 draw, but I think it's going to be a tight first. So that's kind of almost where my head's at. I'm going first period draw, but there might be some better value there with splitting up some units on doing some correct scores if that's kind of really where I'm at for sure.
Yeah, in my head, I've
never looked at it that way, honestly.
Yeah, half of a unit on your draw. 20% on a scoreless 0-0, 20% on 1-1, and then 10% on 2-2.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, no, definitely not a bad way to look at it and get some better money. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is actually, if you're going to take that approach, you're right, because you're going to maximize your return. If you're going to bet a first period draw, you know damn well the most logical final first period correct scores are 0-0 and 1-1.
Right.
So why not further get it at least a little bit better price.
You give yourself insurance with a 2-2 if it goes haywire. Okay, fine, but 2-2 still a draw. So
absolutely.
And 30-1. that's a great insurance. So something to think about.
No, that's a good look for sure. That's something I'm definitely gonna look into. It's the last game of the night for me, so I'll have some time.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Exactly. Out there. And he's a West Coast guy, Zach, of course, out there in beautiful British Columbia. What's the weather like out there, by the way, in BC right now?
It's starting to warm up a little bit. What is it right now? It's 6 degrees right now here, but next week it's jumping up to double digits. I think Calgary actually next week.
Which is like Chinese to the American public.
Degrees.
Say that.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out in my head. Like, so like 40s, 50s for us basically is kind of where you're.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. Mid to high 40s is what it is. Yes.
Alex is like, damn, it's cold.
Yeah, people mock American the scale because they're the only ones that use Fahrenheit. Like 90% of the world uses Celsius.
I used Fahrenheit forever because I lived in the States for so long. I went to school there and played hockey down there. But now the last few years being up here, I'm back on the Celsius. So.
Yeah. It's
Did he really sit? Is Benoit the guy that's out tonight? He is. Wow. Wow.
Whoa.
Benoit, Simon Benoit's out for Toronto tonight. So keep sitting him, and he's a Quebec guy playing in Montreal. What's up with that? That's something Babcock would do. Like Babcock scratching Spezza, Jason Spezza, in his return to Toronto with his family in attendance and didn't play Jason Spezza. He's got to be injured. He's got to have something bothering him, some kind of nagging thing. Because this guy's, he's from Laval. Wow, I'm a little surprised by that. That's if it's not injury related, that's just that's stunning, and that's disappointing that you do that to that guy. But
Columbus tied it up.
that's another story. That's for them to worry about, not me. All right, great stuff. That is the Saturday NHL card. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. A great Saturday show. Looking forward to the rest of these early games finishing up and the rest of the card after that. A reminder to get every play on our Saturday card. We've already got the afternoon stuff posted there on the Patreon page. We'll have the rest of the card for the night posted in just a bit. You can subscribe, sign up for just $10 per month at patreon.com/iceguys. And again, you'll get our daily sides, totals, and player props, goalie charts, totals charts, bonus content. And we do have a Patreon exclusive live betcast lined up. And I'll give you a small hint, because we don't reveal the day until of the Patreon exclusive live betcast until the day of, but it will be sometime this week. Okay, this upcoming week will be our March Patreon exclusive live betcast. So we're looking forward to that, which means this is the time to sign up. Get in, subscribe before the betcast occurs later this week, and make sure you're part of it. $10 per month. And again, your subscription goes a long way to keeping the show going long term. Patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. And again, our main free-for-all public betcast is coming your way at the end of the month, Tuesday, March 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great slate that night. Matt's going to check in from San Jose, where he'll be in attendance for the Stars and the Sharks that night. A DM or email for a spot on the betcast, and we will send you the link for it before it begins. It's a great slate that night. Everyone invited, of course, because it's a public free-for-all betcast. This one, Tuesday, March 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you join us for that one. And last but not least, check out the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and get your merch today and every day at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yes, and this weekend, in fact, the next 4 days, you can save 20% off of your orders. Go to iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Click on the redeem button at the top of the page. Shop away at your heart's desire, and when you cash out, you'll have 20% off of your order right there at checkout. So that's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, check it out. All right, it is in a moment. We'll be back with Bargain Bin Special of the night, as well as our best bets coming right up, right after we hear from our great daily sponsors of the Ice Guys show, Boston Hemp. All right, Boston Hemp Inc. Make sure you check them out. And again, you can get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys over at bostonhempinc.com. All right, it is time for Bargain Bin Special of the night. Not many nights where we've said we've collectively gotten snuffed out of Bargain Bin winners, but last night was one of those nights. We'll see if we can find one for this Saturday slate between the three of us. Alex, we'll start with you. The most red hot of the bunch of us lately with the Bargain Bin Special. What do you like tonight?
Well, yeah, can't cash one last night when you bet on a team or pick a player that has a team where they don't score a goal. So here we're hoping for a team that has also had issues getting some offense rocking and rolling, but I'm trusting in this team, and I'm trusting more in this particular player. I'm looking at the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. They're heading to the nation's capital, taking on Washington. This is a mess of a team, but there's been some good momentum and some positive pieces. We saw the power play get rolling. We saw some offense, and we saw that one of those goals come in from the captain in waiting. That's what I'm calling him right now. He's got the A on his chest. It should be a C by next fall. Nick Foligno. You can get him plus 400 to score over at FanDuel anytime. I think he's going to be one of those guys that really kind of continues the pace and continues the momentum. He's made it a point all year long, especially after he signed that extension, saying that, we're looking to build toward the future, and we want to show, I want to see guys who are working as hard as me, guys who are working as hard as Connor Bedard, who are working as hard, some of those top-level guys who've been giving that effort and energy every night, Reese Johnson, Kevin Korchinski. There's some talent in this team that's working their asses off, and then there's a bunch of bums. And we're going to start to see the fat kind of separate a little bit from the solids here. So give me Nick Foligno plus 400 anytime goal scorer for the Hawks tonight against the Caps.
All right, Nick Foligno. Chicago Blackhawks, bargain bin special of the night. What was it, plus 400? Wow,
plus
great price. Plus 400 for Nick Foligno, Alex B. Smith with his bargain bin special of the night for this Saturday card. Zach, what have you found for bargain bin?
I'm hitting us with Mackenzie Weegar, anytime goal against the Florida Panthers, his old team. I don't think he's scored in a few. Seems to be able to put the puck in the net a little bit. So I got him at plus 500 on Bet365. Might be able to get a little higher value on some other platforms, but that's my bargain spend special tonight.
Yeah, the angle makes sense. Playing your old team. Mackenzie Weegar, Calgary Flames, going back to Florida to take on his old team, the Panthers, plus 500 for him to score a goal for Zach Urban, his bargain bin special of the night. And mine, I actually already mentioned it. I've decided I'm going to use it. I think he's at least the best option, better option than what they've had in the past to play on the top line with Zibanejad and Kreider. And actually, he was playing pretty well with Columbus before the trade. Jack Roslovic, plus 350 at FanDuel for the New York Rangers. In his Rangers debut tonight, playing with Zibanejad and Kreider. Good price, and a guy that I think will be able to generate a lot more than VC did on that top line. So Jack Roslovic, New York Rangers, plus 350 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, time for best bets to wrap this up for this mega show on a Saturday. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, let's head on out to Manhattan. Got the New York Rangers taking on the St. Louis Blues. And like I said, this is a Ranger team coming off a couple of bad losses. I think they'll be fired up, have some energy in the first 20 minutes. I think that'll lead to some goals. So give me the first period over 1.5. Minus $1.15 available at FanDuel and Caesars with the Blues and the blue shirts, the New York Rangers tonight. That's my Saturday best bet.
All right, there it is. St. Louis, New York Rangers, over 1.5. Minus 120 first period for Alex B. Smith with his best bet. Zach, it was good to have you back in the rotation again on a Saturday. What do you like here for your best bet today?
Yeah, I'm going to that Chicago-Washington game and going with the Chicago over 2.5 goals. I think they're going to pot a few tonight, and I like the value on it as well.
Yeah, you don't get a team total over 2.5 very often at a plus price, but you do get that with Chicago tonight. So Chicago Blackhawks team total over 2.5, around plus 110 for Zach Urban with his best bet. And my best bet, it's Captain Obvious best bet for me, but Ottawa San Jose over 6.5 minus 125. In fact, I like all three elements, all three branches, if you will, of that over trifecta in that Senators Sharks game. But for best bet purposes, we will roll with the full game over. Ottawa San Jose over 6.5 minus 125 for my best bet here for this Saturday NHL card. Great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We appreciate you guys joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A great show. Good to have Zach back on his Saturday spot, and we hope you enjoyed it. And let's have a big Saturday. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Zach Urban, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back with you tomorrow on Sunday. And Connor Mack back in the house with us tomorrow as well for the Sunday edition of the Ice Guys.